Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
So it seems that winter's come back with a little bit of a vengeance this weekend. I've got like multiple layers on going here, and but it's a good reminder. I mean, hopefully everyone's all right out there, because there's been some pretty damaging winds going around. It's just been bucketing down this morning, but yeah, I guess we're still in the throes of winter as we can see, right?
Well, definitely. I think it's pretty wintry everywhere in the south of Australia at the moment. So, but maybe only another month of it, and then it'll just be bone dry.
Yeah, this is the wonderful modern world of weather we're living in right now. But having said that, obviously this is like an opportunity, like this is the type of indoor weather, type of, indoor activity weather that you can, sort of kick back, maybe chuck some of the, some movies and TV shows to watch, catch up on a few things. And that's where we're going to start, because there's been I guess streaming did have a very interesting novelty factor when it started in terms of convenience, etc. Like I remember, just as a throwaway, I don't think the connection's there, but Steve Jobs once said in one of the keynotes that when he introduced the first Apple TV, I think he was like trying to think of it as, or the second one, I think, where he was trying to describe it as like the DVD for the internet age. That was kind of what the box was doing, and I guess the streaming services have now become that idea, so that instead of getting your DVDs or renting them from the store or whatever, you just streaming them straight down. And there was a really interesting component to how to what that technology offered, but like everything, it seems to go in a direction that isn't helpful, and that's led to a resurgence in piracy. Now, that's not to say that that it hasn't gone away or anything, but the whole I can recall the period probably around 2015 to probably just before the pandemic, when it was all kind of fresh and new with streaming. And I think the bargain was that these streaming services were offering, and by extension some of the Hollywood studios, is that, hey guys, we're going to offer you this at a reasonable price, and this is a way that you can support your artists or whatever. And I realize this can also apply to things like music, etc., but we're going to concentrate on the streamers for now. But the idea that it would be a better value proposition. It'll be a certain amount per month. You get access to the library of content, and it'll be better than piracy. Will give you a better experience, yada yada yada, etc. And I think that actually did work well for a little while, but after coming out of the pandemic, where I guess all their servers got slammed when we were all indoors streaming, a couple of things have happened. Obviously, they've increased the price several times, not adjusted with inflation, I might add, and
way beyond it.
Exactly, and are still continuing to do so. Obviously, they've started introducing these ad-supported plans, which they're going to try and drive everyone towards by raising the prices of the non-ad plans. And on top of that, there's the splintering of where you can actually get the content. So whereas you may have been able to get away with 1, 2 or 3 streaming services before, you probably have to, if you really want access to everything, you probably have to subscribe to at least 7 or 8 of them now. You add that all up and you end up paying, for, in America it'd be like cable fees, for here it'd be like Foxtel fees, etc. And then it becomes a question of what's the point, because it becomes too expensive. And then that has led to, these increased numbers that have happened in the last little while, with people returning to piracy, which isn't the solution. But it kind of highlights the problem that they're now facing. And I just wonder if there's a reckoning coming with this sort of stuff about what are the streamers going to do in the future. They surely can't think that they're going to charge $50 a month for this stuff.
Well, that's right. I mean, $50 a month starts to get prohibitive. Maybe, from the good old days, with cable, you could have a single subscription for $50, but you can't have 4 of them for $50. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing prices go from $10 for everything and one dominant service, which was Netflix when it first came out, through to now, there's 4, 5, 6 dominant players. And that's not counting, say your specialist sports or other programming services. So it's getting mighty expensive, and we know for a fact that it's the dollar cost that drives piracy.
Absolutely. The other thing, and I guess, and this will sort of segue into our second topic here, is that this... I know part of this isn't related to the pricing thing, but it kind of does relate in a way. It's that because it's becoming content that is instantly accessible, it's like it's got less value. So I'm finding that I have, although I'll still watch things, I don't find the same like value in watching these things anymore, because it feels like it's just on a Rolodex, of unlimited content that's accessible at any time, and that's also part of the problem. So even if we were willing to, put up with the price increases, etc., there's also this same problem they seem to be introducing, which I don't think is necessarily intentional. It's just that the value, I don't know if you call it cultural, artistic value, whatever you want to call it, that thing that we used to be attached to when watching a movie or a TV show is disappearing with it being accessed this way.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And as you said, we'll get on to the music in a minute, but Spotify is singular and dominant. So all the music is on Spotify. There are other services, of course, but it's the dominant platform, and to that end, music is generic. So whether it's classical or rock or jazz, it's all sits on the one platform together. What's interesting about the movie or visual content component is you've got the 5 or 6 platforms that are generating the content, as well now, or have exclusive licensing for the content. And while, you and I frequently argue the quality of the content may not be getting any better, especially when it comes to feature films, they have particular areas where they might have an advantage, or, people might have a preference for the content on those platforms. And I think so it's splintered that way. None of the platforms really can you consume in singularity. You need more than one visual platform, but within that, I think the quality's thinning out. So that's the other driver of piracy, is you just take the best content from the platform that's got it, and if you amass a library, then it's yours to view whenever you want, on your demand.
Absolutely. And that's probably a good transition over to this other topic, the real reason music is getting worse, which I think is what we were alluding to there, which I think a lot of these also apply in the movie and TV space. And it was this video that I believe his name is Rick Beato. I assume that's the way his name is. So you can look him up on YouTube. He former music producer, as far as I can understand. But he did make some interesting points in this video that we watched about why this might be the case. And I think, especially in the first half of the video, he was talking a lot about the analog crafting of music, and it was quite difficult. It wasn't just something that you could, put into ChatGPT and then it could spit something out, 30 seconds later. They actually had to do a lot of work in figuring out how to record each individual sound so that it could then be compiled into an actual track. And there was a lot of work with that. Then there was also just the idea that, you didn't just pick up your phone and press play. You would have to, get dressed, go down to the store, pick up you may not have even had the record there in the store. You may have had to have ordered it and waited for it. And who knows what, even if you did pick it up, then it would still be, like an hour or two of your time before you eventually got back and then put it in the player and actually listen to it. And then you would also get, with some of the, better albums or, better produced albums, you'd get like the artwork and all of the, like a booklet inside or whatever that went through the whole process, etc. So it became like an experience that this artist was sharing with you, etc. And that is the type of thing that gets lost when you just bring up Spotify, type in the name, and you press play. You just don't get that connection. And I think that's where it's just an unfortunate reality of this technology is wonderful in a way, but this is the downside of it.
Well, technology is an enabler, but technology in itself is not an art, or it's not creative. And I think one of the interesting things also is that in the olden days, like Rick Beato, whatever his name is, was saying, bands used to spend literally months in a studio recording albums, and that used to be part of what the big deal was the fact that when a band got signed, they had access to a studio for 3 months, which cost the record company a fortune, because they had to have the studio on, producers, techs, and all of that sort of stuff. And so that was how long it took to get the sound. Today, for some artists, if not most of them, you could have a single techo arranging all the music effectively, get them in to come and sing to it, and then they can go away after maybe a stressful afternoon in the studio, and then they can play around with it, all the files as we know in digital, until they get the final sound they want and pop it straight out. So there is no artistic struggle. There's probably a lot less consideration and thought and pain that goes into producing the sounds or getting a sound that sounds the way the artist wants it or the producer wants it. So it is a very different world. And for that reason, I think, as he pointed out, you can pick AI songs on the radio. I found it interesting when he said Spotify is actually generating them now as well, just to fill playlists and make additional money. So you can pick music that is AI, and it can be quite pleasant and it can be quite enjoyable. There's certainly no question of that, because it's pitched right at all the things we love in terms of music and interaction with that music, but it is a little bit soulless.
And I also think that there's a tendency for this environment to encourage more of a committee-driven product, for lack of a better term. So it would be easier for a producer to come in with a couple of writers and actually just write the whole song, and then just have someone come in, almost like the front end.
Someone marketable, Ben. Someone marketable, or a marketable brand come in.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So, and then that's like another step that, takes that kind of that feeling of artistry out of the actual work itself, and leads to, like if you just pop like a playlist on, it feels like one song after another it's like they might actually be different, but it feels like it's just one flatlined experience.
Well, look, absolutely. If you look at any of the people that we consider to be musical elite, or I won't say geniuses, but some of the best popular contemporary musicians in rock and roll, pop, over the last 30 years, maybe not so much in the last 10, but 30 or 40, 50 years before that, I don't think AI would ever come up with some of their classic tracks, because they're just that little bit different, that little bit offbeat, and yet it comes together as something fantastic. I really can't imagine ChatGPT coming up with Sympathy for the Devil.
Absolutely not. And I did want to, just to tie it back into the movie TV show discussion, is that I think that that's something that's going to become more prevalent in that space as well. I think movies are far more along the line, I think, in that respect. TV's kind of hanging on because, there's still a need on the streaming services to punch out this sort of high-end TV product that is still at times capturing some good scripting and some good production and good execution. But I wouldn't be surprised if it went down that route as well, simply because of the same factors, really.
Yeah, it's amazing, and this is of course what the argument is about allowing AI to sample all of the great content that we have today, whether it's musical or visual content, because even if you don't buy into whether or not the artist should or shouldn't have the rights, or whether the big companies and studios should or shouldn't have the rights to that original artistic content, if you're a consumer of that content, you're not going to get anything new from now on. And as we've been talking about probably for the last 6 months, we've already seen that decline, because the artificial intelligence has been the push towards focus groups, towards building a film purely for taking box office, and the story and the craft come secondary. I imagine that probably some of the initial AI offerings in film and content, anyway, visual content that comes from AI will probably be pretty good, because it'll be taking the best and it'll be fresh, and we might even get some surprises and all sit around and go, gee, AI makes movies just like they did in the olden days. But within a decade, I think you're going to get back to the same situation we're in now, where AI will be coming up with sequels, prequels, and franchises that we've got no interest in.
Wells running dry, absolutely. I did want to finish on a nice contrast to that. I mentioned in our last episode that about the Jaws 50th anniversary screenings, and I actually went to see it last night. And even though I know the film inside out, it really was a pleasure going to see it on the big screen, and it was the first time I got to see it on the big screen. And the thing that kind of that film, like when you think about everything we just discussed, that film is like effectively the antithesis of everything we just were talking about, because it was so evident how well it was crafted, and especially because obviously Jaws had the infamous troubled production thing, because it was so difficult to get a shark to behave, or in this case, a mechanical shark to behave. But it led to a lot of inventiveness in the execution of the story. And it's just, even if you take the shark elements out of it, really the thing that really sells that film is just, really tight scripting, really great characterization, and just really good storytelling. And then the shark elements are what, put it over the top for the, the scare factor and all of that stuff.
Well, Ben, and just to get back to the music example, and to think that they edited that film by cutting lengths of film and then splicing them together. Like, that's not easy.
That's certainly literally putting the film together.
Yeah, but that's something that was when editors really were, I guess, artists themselves. Whereas today, even I can edit.
Well, so can we all, right? All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there. It's an interesting time, and I know it all sounds pessimistic. Who knows? There's always a random element that might throw something out of whack, and maybe we might get that glory day again. The artistry comes back in, and we can have AI at the same time.
Well, maybe. I'm tipping the first generation of AI films written and directed by AI will be fantastic.
That's something to look forward to, I guess. Alrighty, so that's it for this week's episode. We'll catch you next time.